Hi, my name is Mitchell Gleason. I am a student in the Master's Program of History at Arizona State University, and today I will be defending my research paper, Survival Strategies at Auschwitz-Birkenau, 1940 to 1945. Some historical background on the topic. In 1940, the Nazis opened the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, which imprisoned European Jews and provided forced labor to meet the SS officers' demands. The SS was the guard of the Nazi Party and carried out all security-related duties. Although they did not receive explicit orders to kill Jews until 1942, many Jews perished during this time, and the SS faced no repercussion for violent behavior. In 1942, the implementation of the final solution to the Jewish question led to distinct measures and an increase in efforts to mass murder all Jewish individuals in Europe, causing a significant increase in Auschwitz-Birkenau's operations before it was liberated by the Soviets in 1945. The final solution was an explicit process enforced by the SS officers. At this time, Auschwitz-Birkenau expanded to function as a death camp where the Nazis murdered large chunks of the Jewish population. Nazi rhetoric changed from talking about eliminating Jewish culture to promoting genocide. They built multiple gas chambers to kill Jews at faster rates and house more prisoners. My research essay discusses the factors and the strategies that helped Jewish prisoners survive the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp. Just to clarify here, factors refer to uncontrollable risk factors, specifically gender, age, and class. Strategies refer to specific actions that help prisoners overcome the camp conditions. I selected a diverse background of survivors in terms of both gender, age, and class to provide a much clearer picture of surviving Auschwitz. For example, I learned that men, women, and children did many of the same things to escape the harsh realities, at least temporarily, but a woman or a child were less likely to survive based on specific strategies. My main research questions: what factors and strategies influence survival in Auschwitz? How do prisoners grapple with the camp's conditions and treatment by SS officers? And what were the main differences in survival among men, women, and children? These questions provided the detailed understanding of both how the prisoners survived Auschwitz, adapted to the environment, and it provides detail on the types of conditions they endured. Although I understood and studied the horrors of concentration camps in previous college coursework, I understood that I needed to complete a more thorough analysis when researching this topic. A bit more on primary sources. My paper uses oral interviews frequently. I took two selections from Gideon Grief's book, We Wept Without Tears. He interviewed two former laborers in Birkenau, which gives detail on the working conditions in the camp and also how prisoners interacted with each other collaboratively. The 1985 interview by Elliot Kessler with Anna Petipa shows the differences between adult males and females in the camp and how their experiences differ greatly. I also used these three memoirs. First with Goethe Solin's My Heart is at Ease, although this was a memoir written by Goethe Solin as an adult, but she was a child when she first entered Auschwitz, entering at age 14. This source was used to show similarities and differences between children's experiences and adults' experiences within the camp. I also used Primo Levi's The Drowned and the Saved. Primo Levi had a background as a chemist, and he arrived in decent health as a younger adult male. He worked in the camp laboratory, which was less demanding than other parts of the camp. And Marco Nahan's Birkenau, the camp of death. Nahan worked as a medical doctor in Auschwitz. These sources showed that males could advance within the camp and had more privileges than women and children. The earliest secondary sources, including Roel Hilberg's 1961 book, The Destruction of the European Jews, provided comprehensive overviews of conditions in the concentration camps. However, many focused on perpetrators' actions. By the 1990s, historians added survivor testimonies from laborers, women, and children to provide detail on their experiences in Auschwitz, which 21st century scholarship also emphasized. Even after Holocaust historians utilized survivor testimonies, they did not dedicate as much attention to survival strategies. In my essay, strategies are my primary component of research. I also examine the role of uncontrollable risk factors and how strategies' effectiveness change over time. This is my thesis. I will not read it out loud, but I will clarify a couple of points. In part 1, collaborative interactions involve the theft of goods and communication between inmates, such as bonding and building relationships. Obedience and deference were practiced to avoid encounters with SS officers. Part 2, the expansion of camp operations included the development of the gas chambers when Nazis implemented the final solution and believed that they needed to murder Jews at faster rates. They often kept just those who were fit to work in the camp and would help maintain its operations. At this time, pure luck played a more important role, especially in the case of a woman or a child. My first key theme focuses on interactions with other inmates. Some of the ways in which prisoners interacted with each other included collaborative efforts such as the theft of goods, rebellion, resistance movements, and building relationships with each other. The theft of goods could satisfy both prisoners' needs and help them cope with difficulties and hardships, and the SS officers' strict labor demands, such as stealing goods to speed up construction of the camp. Prisoners also formed bonds to improve psychological well-being, as they could prevent them from committing suicide or a type of crime punishable by death. They also relied on each other to complete grueling tasks, such as untangling bodies in the crematoria. They also commonly shared stories of pre-Holocaust memories and sought emotional relief in the bunks once work ended for that day. Resistance movements and rebellion allowed inmates to give key information, such as activities happening in the camp. Rebellion caused some prisoners to feel that the Nazis weren't invincible as they commonly believed. My second key theme involved obedience, deference, and perseverance. Prisoners practiced obedience and deference to ensure survival, avoid the most repressive forms of punishment, and attempt to seek safety. Some, but not all, prisoners sought to avoid the most serious crimes in hopes of surviving the camp. For example, different forms of punishment influence levels of compliance. Serious offenses could result in placement at Strafe Company or the Penal Company, which many historians deemed the harshest part of the camp. They also familiarized themselves with camp rules, which were learned through experience. More pleasurable activities, which included listening to the camp orchestra, reminiscing in the bunks, and maintaining their faith, increased prisoners' hopes of leaving the camp alive. After the implementation of the final solution, young, healthy males, most fit for labor, had a greater advantage of survival. Children often faced the same labor requirements as men. Women often encountered unsafe living conditions and lacked opportunities to advance within the camp. In terms of class, Primo Levi discusses the cultivated and uncultivated prisoners, and those exposed to rigorous manual labor, who were considered uncultivated, possess a greater advantage. Many inmates found the SS's standards impossible to achieve, and especially in terms of children, they were killed shortly after their arrival at the camp. Infectious diseases also spread rapidly and decimated populations. Once they spread throughout the camp, and in many cases, surviving Birkenau involved pure luck, especially when a survival strategy could not be applied. If I could redo this project, I would locate additional source material written after the final solution to strengthen my claims about changes in survival strategy over time. On my final draft, sometimes I use secondary sources to restate factual evidence rather than add to the argument, so I would try to align them to the primary sources and the research topic better going forward. The perspective of the perpetrators could also provide for an alternative approach. If I did this, I would incorporate Nazi propaganda into the discussion to highlight the importance of the final solution and add a more unique element to my research overall.